All right, guys, so I'm going to start by creating a cube object. So this cube object is going to be the container on which the object will fall to. So I'm making this the container. Then I'll be pretty fast with this. So I quickly want to do a dynamic simulation before I go to the Realflow simulation of the splash. So this is going to be the container. Then I'm also going to create an object that will interact with it. So I'm trying to create more like a figure falling, then interacting with the container, the water in the container, so the fluid in the container. So we have this. So I'm going to rotate this. So what I've done so far is to convert this to editable format and rotate. So this is going to be more like an object falling into this container. And so this is going to be the container. So I'm going to duplicate this, Command or Control, and drag this to have this. So this becomes the liquid. You would ask, so why am I having liquid and container? So what I'm going to do to this both is I'm going to convert them to editable format. Then for this container, I'm going to delete the top part, so we just have it opened like that. Then for the liquid, I'm going to scale this down a bit because the liquid has to be inside the container, just a little bit, scaling this down. So we have this. Okay, so I'm going to move this up a little bit and also scale down. Move. So if I make this X-ray, so you see that the liquid is inside this container. So if I bring this liquid down a little bit, I don't want it to interact or intersect. So just this. So this is going to form the basis of this whole animation and simulation. Okay, so I'm going to hide this liquid because we're not going to see that. We just want to make this liquid, want to convert it into a Realflow liquid object. All right, so let me quickly do the simulation rigid body. So I'll right click on this, go to new tag, simulation rigid body, go to the container, right click, new tag, simulation tags, collider body. So if I play this is what happens. It falls on top of that. So you remember in my dynamics, for me to make sure this falls in, I have to go to the container tag, go over to the collision, change this from automatic to static mesh. If I replay, this falls into it. So that is what that's what we're looking at. So that's just basically what we need. So for the Realflow simulation to be accurate, what I would do is to cache this simulation. So I'm going to go over to the cache and bake all. So it bakes all that. So if I'm to play this, it falls. So the good thing with baking is I can scroll this back. So I know that no calculation is being done for the simulation. So this makes your scene and simulation accurate, because now by the time I'm adding the Realflow, it doesn't do two calculations anymore. So it's only going to be calculating for the Realflow. This has been stored. But if I had not done this, it will be doing both calculations, doing the simulation calculation, rigid body calculation, and also the Realflow. So it slows down the scene and all that. So that's how to do that. So the next thing is for us to do the Realflow simulation. So I'm going to get rid of this grid, so everything is fine. So if I play this again, you have that. So that is fine. So what I'm going to do now is to create my Realflow. So I'll go to Realflow menu, go to the emitter. I want to choose a fill emitter. So this comes up. So what the fill emitter does is it asks you to put in a body for it to fill. So remember, we have a liquid that we want it to fill. So I'm going to drag this liquid into this section. Then notice automatically you have this fill body acting. So the next thing I'm going to do is to play this now. Notice what is happening. So now this is slowing down. So what I'm going to do to increase the response, and because of tutorial purpose, I'm going to go to the fluid, change the simulation resolution from that to maybe 0.8 thereabouts. And also, so if I play this back, you notice it plays a lot faster than 2 resolution. So the other thing I'm going to do is to look for a way. So I need to make sure that gravity affects my liquid, right? So if I go over to my Realflow and I go to Daemon, I add gravity. This is what will happen. You notice that the liquid falls through and I need it to interact with this container. So I'm going to play this back, go to the container, right click on it, go to Realflow tag. I want to add a collider body to it. So if I play this again, notice it interacts, so it's not falling down. All right, so we have that. So what I want to do is notice as it falls down, if I go back, it resets itself. Okay, I don't want this reset. So what can I do? But before then, if you notice that this liquid also, it has a particular pattern. I want to break this pattern down. You can already see from here, you have this linear pattern. So if I go to the emitter, I want to change this geotrain so that it randomizes this. So if I make this maybe 0.9, you notice this is now random. So you don't really have a particular pattern. So the other thing I'm also going to do is to make sure that this liquid doesn't start flowing from the air. It starts on it. So if I play this now, it falls down, and that's not what I want. So I'll pause this here, go over to my fluid, scroll down, then I'm going to click on under my fluid tab, create initial states. Then you need to make sure you click on this, because if I go back, it resets that. All right. So if I click on this, use initial state, and I go back, it's going to use that initial state. So I'll do another simulation. Then I want it to rest. After that, I'm going to do that again until I have this at a particular rest that I want. So I think this is okay. So I'm going to create again. So that solves that. So the other thing I also want to do is I also want this guy to interact with this, because if I play this now, this door falls but doesn't interact with the fluid. So I need to have that interact. So what I'm going to do to this is also to right click on it, create a Realflow tag and collider. So I want it to collide. So if I play this now, you notice this falls. So this will take longer to calculate. Then as soon as it hits this, you see that it turns white. So that's letting me know that there's an interaction with this. So the purpose for this tutorial is to create a splash. So how can we create a splash? And this is what we're going to use. If I select this scene, go to Realflow, Daemon. So this is what helps us to create this splash crown. So if I create a crown Daemon, sorry about that, then I replay. So what I want to do is make sure, if I go to the top view, I want to make sure that this crown Daemon is not smaller than the total area of this object. So if I go to the Daemon, I can bring this and make sure it is just that. Okay, so maybe I'll bring this up a little bit. Okay, so once that is done, I'm going to go back to my top view, front perspective view. So let's look at some basic settings. So we have the fluid, which has already been registered. We have the scene, which has also already been taken. So we have the strength. So the strength talks about the effect, the strength of the effect of this splash. So we're going to be changing values between here and here. So we also have the creation frame and also the action frame. So the creation frame is when the splash was created. So more like when this object hits this liquid, that is the creation frame. Then the acting frame is when you want the splash to have effect. So basically you want the flash to have effect the same time that it hits this object. So maybe if you want to change the time frame, maybe 1 frame, so just for it to settle before it hits. So this value now doesn't do anything because we want it to start when this guy hits this object. So I'm going to go to either right or front view, so that when I simulate this, I know when this hits this object. So if I play, and what I'm doing now is to look down here and look at the frame that this object hits this. I'm going to scroll, and by the time it touches that, I'm going to pause. So this is when it touches. So this is at frame 22. So if I go to the crown, then equation should be at 22. Then the acting frame. So let's say we want this to be 23 frames. I hope that makes sense. So because this is when this object hits this object, this liquid, and that means that is when it should start splashing. Okay, so we're going to leave these settings and go over to the crown shape. So if you look at this, if we play this now, you notice it touches, but we don't really see the splash. And the reason is because we need to start changing some values. So to start with, let's change the strength. So if we make this 20,000 centimeters and replay, you notice what happens is that you start to see as this thing touches here, and you still don't see anything, right? Okay, so what could be the problem? What could be the solution to this? So for me to do that, I would also want to come to the width here. So the width is sort of very large. So if I bring this width down, or sorry, bring it up a little bit so that I have a fall off. So maybe I want to make it a round value 50. And let's play this again. We should start to see a difference in here. So if you play, you can already start seeing the splash. All right. So this is not the only thing you just changed. Now, you can notice this falling up and going very far up. And the reason is because now, we've changed the strength. So the strength is much in cooperation, in conjunction with this width. So what I'm going to do is bring this back to 8,000 and replay that so that we can see how intense this strength of the splash is. So if you play, you notice that is created. So if you feel that you like that, you will go with that. But I feel this is too much. So what I can do is bring this to, let's say, 500 and replay that. So you will be going back and forth, changing values until you get a desired result that you're looking for. All right. So I hope that makes sense. So you have that. So I think 500 is too, the strength is too small. So maybe we'll bring this to 2000 again. So you go back, replay until you have your desired results. Okay. So do mind, bear with me with this playback. I have a lot of softwares on. Okay. So I have this. Okay. So now let me now do another problem. If you notice the way the splash goes, it goes more like a cone effect. And also if you look at some parts of this splasher moving up, and the reason why you have this is because of this line that you're having. So this is more like the highest point of the splash, so it goes up and up and up. But the total surface area is more like a cone shape. So how can we break this up? There shouldn't be this uniformity in this. How can we break it up and add a regularity to this? And that can be done still under your crown daemon and go to your shape, crown shape. So what the crown shape does, it allows you to shape these guys. So if I go to edit, I now have these bezier handles, which can allow me move points. So if I want this to come down a little bit, so that means this doesn't protrude too much up. So maybe this should splash somewhere here. And for this, I want this to come here and maybe move up a little bit. So this one comes here. So I hope you understand what I'm doing. So I'm trying to set how the splash will go. And once you're okay with that result, you try also to simulate and see whatever effect you want. So maybe I'm also going to go back and reduce this to, let's say, 20, if that is not too small. So let's play what we have here. So if I play this and that falls, and let's see the interaction and how the simulation works. Okay, so I think the 20 is small. Okay, so this is coming up, but the strength, the centimeter is too small, so it's not really interacting. So let's make this 35. This should interact better. the object. So what this is trying to look at is the fall off from the object and the highest point. So you have that, then you have the splash coming up. All right. So you can see the shape of the splash. All right. So you can see this the shape of the splash. Okay, so if you feel that this is too much, you can reduce the shape. So let's bring this to, let's say, 100, 100, and possibly bring this 150, the height. So if I go back to the top view, don't forget, so we also want to make sure this Ctrl Z. So we have to go back and go out of the edit mode to have the shape. So let's see what we have. So we play this again and see the effects we tend to have here. Okay, so this is splashing out, but you can notice that the timing is a lot slower. So what we can do is also come back to this place and reduce this time. So maybe this is going to be, we want it to be faster. So make this 19, 20. All right. So another thing is looking at the spike count. So what the spike count does adds all these spikes. So if you notice, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So if you want to add more spikes, so the spikes are those ones that protrudes up. Those ones that protrudes up. So if I add 2 more spikes, you can already see the count going up. All right. So let's just say we want to have 7. So what we can do is go back to the edit shape and bring this up more. This up more, or maybe this down, bring this down. So this is more like the highest point of your splash. So maybe for this guy, we'll bring this down. It's just to create irregularity in your splash. So I think I'm going to go with this. And let's go back to this crown and reduce this, increase this strength. So maybe 2100. And let's play this. So I'm almost done with this. So this is just basically all that is needed for that. So you see that splash comes up and splashes out and you get that effect. So if, let's say for instance, we like this effect, okay, so what we can do is to cache this. So if I go to the scene and I go over to cache, so I can cache this. So we're going to get back to this mesh. So let's just first cache the simulation. Click on cache and that will cache. So you can see the values. So we're going to get back when this is done. All right, so the cache is done. So all I just need to do is click OK. So now we are fine. So this is telling you that this is now cached. So we can play this and it falls at the real time. So this falls down and it splashes out. So you have the splash. Okay. So let's see the interaction and when we add a mesh to it. So we select the scene, then we go to Realflow Mesher, and that mesher will be added to this guy. So all we need to do is then, first off, let's build a mesh. Then it's going to build this mesh, so we can always update this mesh, auto build. So what this auto build does, every time it goes next frame, it builds the mesh. So let's look at what we have. Okay, let's build that. So you see this splash. So if you play and also build, so you have that. So if you feel you like this, you can just go with it. But if you feel that this doesn't look more like what you want, you can just come here and start changing the resolution. So maybe the resolution from low to medium, then it's going to automatically build that. Okay, so now this is looking a lot with more detail. Then you can also either reduce this radius or increase the radius. But what I do is I tend to reduce the radius and smoothen this effect. So if I smoothen this, so it tries to create those objects close together and join them. So we have that effect. So maybe we'll go with 7, and then just trying to build this, smoothing that. So we get to have this effect here. So if I play and continue, this falls and it builds that. So if I build, it builds that mesh, and that gives me this effect. So if I want to also cache this mesh, maybe once I'm done, I'm okay with this, I can just go back to this scene. That is when I can now have cache mesh. So I'm going to start caching this mesh. So I'm going to fast forward this while this is cached. Then once I'm back, we see what we have. All right, guys, so I'm done. You can already see this cache is 2.3 gigabyte file size, and it took 4 minutes to cache that. So I'm going to okay that. So I now have cache. So if I play back and we play, so you have this already cached. So you already have this. So if you like, you can now start texturing this and have whatever you want to have it to be. So if you texture this and drag this over to this liquid, that becomes the texture. So I think I'm going to end this tutorial here. This is not a texture tutorial, it's just a simulation tutorial, how to create this splash effect. And if you feel this was helpful, please do give me a like and a thumbs up, because it helps me. And if you also are new to this channel, please do subscribe to the channel because I do tutorials like this every week. So I'm going to say do have a wonderful day and God bless you. Bye.